7 years after quitting the Iran nuclear deal, Trump has opened talks with Khamenei's emissaries. His envoy Steve Witkoff and Iran's foreign minister Sayyid Abbas Araghchi headed the talks in the Gulf nation of Oman on Saturday. An Iranian official said on X that the Iranian and U.S. delegations were seated in separate rooms and they conveyed their points of view and positions to each other through the Omani foreign minister. The U.S. hopes to jumpstart negotiations over Iran's rapidly advancing nuclear program. Araghchi met with his Omani counterpart Badr bin Hamad Albusaidi and others before the start of the negotiations with the U.S.
Our intention is to reach a fair and honorable agreement from an equal position. And if the other side also comes from the same position, then hopefully there will be a chance for an initial understanding that will lead to a path of negotiations.
The U.S.-Iran talks follow a number of moves by Trump in the last 3 months. In February, Trump restored a maximum pressure campaign on Tehran. Then he wrote a letter to Khamenei in March, to which Tehran replied the same month. Oman, which is seen as a neutral player, has a history of facilitating dialogue between the U.S. and Iran. Saturday's talks saw Omani Foreign Minister Badr Albusaidi shuttling between the two sides, a format reminiscent of past indirect negotiations. Araghchi wrote in the Washington Post newspaper that pursuing indirect negotiations is not a tactic or reflection of ideology, but a strategic choice rooted in experience. We face a significant wall of mistrust and harbor serious doubts about the sincerity of intentions, made worse by U.S. insistence on resuming the maximum pressure policy prior to any diplomatic interaction, unquote. The U.S. and Iran had held indirect talks during Biden's term but made little or no progress. The last known direct negotiations between the two governments were under Obama. Incidentally, Oman was involved in mediating U.S.-Iran talks as early as July 2012, when Washington, D.C. and Tehran held preliminary talks. That was followed by a 3-day secret meeting between U.S. and Iranian officials in Oman in March 2013. It eventually led to the signing of the 2015 Iran nuclear deal among the U.S., Iran, China, the U.K., France, Russia, Germany and the European Union. On 7th April, Trump caught the world off guard when he announced direct talks with Tehran. But Iran quickly pushed back. Araghchi clarified that the discussions would be indirect, mediated by Oman. He framed the negotiations as both an opportunity and a test for the U.S. to prove its sincerity. Adding complexity to the situation, the U.S. imposed fresh sanctions on Iran's nuclear program just days ahead of the talks. It targeted 5 entities and 1 individual linked to Iran's nuclear energy program. The message was clear. The U.S. will keep the pressure on, even as it talks to Tehran. Separately, the U.S. deployed 6 B-2 bombers to the Indian Ocean island of Diego Garcia. Now, there are only 20 B-2 bombers in the U.S. Air Force's inventory, so they are usually used sparingly. Satellite images show that the 6 bombers were only recently relocated to the U.S.-British military base on the island. The B-2 has stealth technology, meaning it can fly undetected. It can also carry the 14,000-kilogram bunker buster bomb that is designed to destroy targets deep underground. Now, that is the weapon the U.S. or possibly Israel could use to take out Iran's nuclear facilities. U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth said that it was up to Iran to determine whether the deployment of B-2 bombers was a message to Iran. But the dramatic show of force projection and strategic signaling dovetails with Trump's warning of using military force if Iran does not agree to a nuclear deal.
with Iran, if it requires military, we're going to have military. Israel will obviously be very much involved in that. He'll be the leader of that. But nobody leads us. We do what we want to do.
Not to be outdone, Iran threatened to suspend cooperation with the UN nuclear watchdog if the US kept up its rhetoric. Ali Shamkhani, an advisor to Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, said on X, and I quote him here, "Continued external threats and putting Iran under the conditions of a military attack could lead to deterrent measures like the expulsion of IAEA inspectors and ceasing cooperation with it," unquote. He added for good measure that transferring enriched material to safe and undisclosed locations in Iran could also be on the agenda. Simultaneously, Iran showcased what it calls advancements in its nuclear program. On 9th April, which is Iran's National Nuclear Technology Day, President Masoud Pezeshkian visited an exhibition that displays the country's achievements in the nuclear fuel cycle and other cutting-edge technologies. He said again that Iran has no intention of building a nuclear weapon.
We are holding talks, as the Supreme Leader has stated. We are engaging indirectly with dignity and pride, and with every assurance necessary to show that we are not pursuing a nuclear bomb. They have come 10 times, 100 times, 1,000 times to investigate, and they can come investigate again. We have not been, are not, and will not be pursuing a nuclear bomb.
But it has done little to ease concerns in Washington, D.C. and Tel Aviv. It's not clear if Trump is looking to limit Iran's nuclear capabilities, similar to the 2015 deal clinched by Obama, or demand the complete destruction of its facilities. His envoy Witkoff has spoken about a verification program so that nobody worries about weaponization of Iran's nuclear material. But Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is calling for the full dismantling of Iran's nuclear program. He wants to see the Libya model applied to Iran. Remember, in 2003, Libya unilaterally renounced its weapons of mass destruction and announced the dismantling of its nuclear program.
We
agree that Iran will not have nuclear weapons. This can be done in an agreement, but only if this agreement is a Libya-style agreement. That we go in, blow up the facilities, dismantle all the equipment under American supervision and American execution. That is good. A second option, that it will not happen. They will simply drag out the talks, and then the option is military. Everyone understands that. We discussed that at length.
What makes Israel anxious is the International Atomic Energy Agency's latest report that says that Iran had an estimated 274.8 kilograms of uranium enriched up to 60%, nearing the weapons grade of 90%. Various other intelligence assessments say the same thing, that Iran can now accumulate enough weapons-grade uranium in 1 week and build a nuclear weapon in a few months' time. Do the math and you'll find that Iran is only a hop, skip and jump away from going nuclear, should it choose to do so. Iran says that there is a chance that for the US to finally have a president of peace. Whether to seize that opportunity is a choice. The unmistakable reference here is to Trump's obsession with winning the Nobel Peace Prize. The question is, does Trump's best hope for a Nobel now rest with Iran? To quote Araghchi, the ball is now in America's court. Clearly, these talks mark a critical moment in US-Iran relations, which are at a turning point. They could either ease regional tensions or set the stage for further escalation. What will it be? Time will tell.